Okay, everyone, welcome to episode 2 in my new series called The Rebbe and Me. So just 1 second here. So obviously these are all, what I am discussing are amazing answers that I have been fortunate to receive that brought clarification and clearly, call it whatever you'd like to call it, divine providence, a communication between a student and a teacher, between a chassid and a rebbe, whatever, however you like to interpret it, you can do so. One thing for sure is that it's extraordinary. And again, one story is great, but many stories, it starts to become, when you start seeing it so many times, you realize that it cannot be a coincidence. This is huge. So since I did the first episode last week, there is a continuation to the story that happened. In my last recording, I mentioned the idea that one of the awesome benefits from all of this is that you get clarity. You don't have to second guess your situation. You're confused. You don't know. And I told you that I told you about a story about the chassid Rebbe Shmuel David Reichik, Rabbi Reichik Olav Shalom, and his encounter with Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, the Mirror Rosh Hashiva, in which the Mirror Rosh Hashiva said to him, I'm envious of you that you can ask your questions to a Rebbe and get answers, and I don't have that. And he used then the term that it's such a relief to have answers because ein simcha, there is no joy kahataras hasveikis, like when one resolves their doubts. The relief that comes when you can securely go on your way, knowing you made the right decision, is awesome. There's nothing that can compare to that. So I told you then, just this last week, I said that I don't know where that phrase comes from. I know it's not a pasuk. I also don't think it's a statement from the sages. It didn't sound like one, and I didn't think so. But I figured it's from one of the philosophers, one of the early, I mentioned maybe Kuzari, or Nevuchim, Reb Sadi going. So someone listening to this share, sorry, I don't even know your name, whoever sent this to me. Because I know you better than... But your name last time when you signed up, whatever, to receive things, I didn't get your name. But you sent me this thing, someone sent me this, and it's awesome. He showed me where the source is, and what is so exciting is you take a look. There's a pasuk in Mishlei, where the pasuk says, hold on 1 second, the pasuk in Mishlei is, in Proverbs, the pasuk says, I'm sorry, I should have opened this up before, but I was in a rush to do this episode of it. Here we go. Mishlei Tezvav Lamed, chapter 15, verse number 30 in Mishlei, in Proverbs. Shlomo HaMelech says, King Solomon, the wisest of all men, says, Ma'odei Nayim, the illumination of the eyes, Yisamach Lev, makes the heart rejoice. When the eyes are lit up, the heart can rejoice. Shmua Tova, good news to Dashen Otzem, makes a bone expand, or oils the bones. When you hear good news, it causes a certain expansion. Okay. So on this beginning of the verse, Ma'odei Nayim Yisamach Lev, there's the Pirush of Mitzudos, one of the very well accepted commentators on Navi, on prophets. So he says, Ma'odei Nayim, Pasuk Lamed, Ha'oris Einayim, the illumination of the eyes, B'davar HaMesupik, when a person finds himself in doubt, Yismach Lev, Yisamach Lev, makes the heart rejoice, Ki ein ba'olam simcha, because there isn't in the world a happiness, Kataras HaSveikis, that when doubts are resolved. This is what the Metzuday says. What's so exciting? I experienced such joy on Friday when this person WhatsApped me this. Why? This pasuk is the pasuk that is known to be the Rebbe's pasuk. What do I mean by that? It is a minhag, it is a custom, an old custom. I know the Shalah HaKadosh talks about it. I don't think it starts with the Shalah. The Shalah was a 17th century Kabbalist. So he talks about it in his Sefer, but I think it goes back even before that, that for a person to recite at the end of Shmona Esrei, right before you step the 3 steps to go backwards at the conclusion of Shmona Esrei, to recite a verse which alludes to your name. The way it's done is, let's say my name is Ruvain. So Ruvain starts with a Reish and ends with a Nun. So you say a verse in the Torah that begins with a Reish and ends with a Nun. And in the back of many Sidurim, of prayer books, it gives the list on any kind of name you have, the first letter and the last letter, finds a verse to say. And there's all kinds of explanations. Generally it says that when a person leaves this world, it's a segula that you shouldn't forget your name. When the angel comes to pick you up, take you up there, you don't want to start up with the angel immediately by not remembering your name. The trauma of leaving this world can be so intense that it knocks out a person's memory that you don't remember your name. So that's what it says. I actually discussed this once in a class called A Journey Through the Book of Shavous. It's actually one of my favorite classes. So if you look on my website, A Journey Through the Book of Shavous, it's on Parshas Pekudei. Over there I discussed a whole deeper explanation in this idea. But in any case, so people say the verse, I say, for instance, before I step out Shmona Esrei, I say always this pasuk, my verse. It's a pasuk in Kehelas. Starts with a reish, re'ezem, matasi, amra Kehelas, achas la'achas, limtzei cheshben. That starts with a reish, ends with a nun. This pasuk, ma'orei naim yismach leiv, is one that Hasidim say. A lot of Hasidim of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Why? This is the Rebbe's pasuk. So here I am. I'm telling you last week that I am going to share with you a bunch of stories in which I have been privileged to get stunning answers, in which resolved my conflicts in my life when I was in doubt. And the relief that it gives is just so amazing. And I said, I don't know where that statement comes from, that there's nothing as pleasing and as joy and a joy that comes when you can resolve doubt. And I was, take a look at this. I was saying that to be the introduction of the entire series where I am consulting the Rebbe's letters. And I'm kind of, he's resolving my questions when I don't know what to do. I get these answers, which are very clearly illustrating. And that statement that I was looking for, and I quoted, and I didn't know where it's from, is in the commentary, in Mitzudais, on the very pasuk that Hasidim say is the Rebbe's pasuk. What do I mean, Rebbe? He didn't make that pasuk, but it's the pasuk for the word Menachem, because it starts with a mem and it ends with a mem. And this is the chosen verse that people say, which is referring to that the Rebbe, one of the jobs of a Rebbe, is to bring joy to people by resolving their dilemmas. That's what you go to a tzaddik, you have a Rebbe, you go and you ask your questions, and he resolves it. I thought that was another hashgacha pratis, another divine providence. And for me, this is for me. You can do it whatever you want. And I'm not going to deal with everybody's level of emunah, of faith. So I leave that up to you. Draw your own conclusions. But what I am saying is, for me, this was a confirmation, if I needed a confirmation, that this series has the approval from above. When someone told me this, and I enjoyed very much, a very special Yid listened to this class on Friday, and he was all excited. Not class. He listened on Friday to the last episode, and he made sure to leave me a message. And he told me how happy he was that I was doing it, and how inspiring it is. And I told him what just happened, that someone sent me this source, and he said to me that whenever you start something new, and you immediately after that have a story of great divine providence, is a sign that you're getting a thumbs up from above. So it's good to have that. With that inspiration, let's go to episode 2. This one is called To Share or Not to Share. This is much shorter than the previous one, so it's just going to be a short story. And you can count on me that I'm going to make a short story long, but not too long. It's going to be much shorter than what we've told last. And again, as I mentioned, most of the stories are it's like a long story with many letters or many answers. It's just kind of a story onto its own. This happened in 2012. Okay, so it's about, what is it now? It's 2021, about 9 years ago. It's going to be 9 years in June. It was May 9th or May 8th. The week was Parshas Emor, the 17th or the 16th day of Iyar. That brings us 2 days before Lag Bomer. At that time, the Monday night class that I give now Monday nights, which is the Parsha class, Parsha in My Life, was at that time given at Tuesday nights. And the initial first few years of mine in Yisrael, the Parsha in My Life class was scheduled for Tuesday nights, and then it was moved to Monday. So that Tuesday evening, I gave a class from exactly this spot, standing, not sitting, like the Parsha in My Life usual classes. And the subject was the idea of the spiritual dynamics of Sfiras HaOmer. And the class is called From Pesach to Shavous. And it discusses the entire process of first Passover, Pesach, then the 7-week count, and then Shavous. And it was derived, the concepts and the ideas was derived from a discourse of the 4th Chabad Rebbe Shmuel of Lubavitch, which I think his is based on his father's discourse, the Tzemach Tzedek. And when I was teaching, I think I was teaching it on Pesach, not with a microphone, Pesach, and I was blown away by the concept, and it got me really excited, and I decided that on Parshas Emor, which is the mitzvah of Sfiras HaOmer, I should relate that. And it basically, the theme and the idea is to explain how the 7-week count before Shavuos is similar to a woman counting 7 pure days. After a woman had some a menstruation, a period, so in order to cleanse herself, so she can be intimate with her husband again, in order for her to go to the mikveh, there has to be a counting of a week. So there he explains, this is what the Zohar says, that the Jewish people purify themselves every year because our marriage and our intimacy with God happens on Shavuos. The night of Shavuos is when God gives us the Torah. That's a spiritual intimacy with Hashem. Before that, we have 7 weeks of counting. It's called the Zayin Nikiyim, 7 clean days. And that's the idea, and that's what I was discussing. It ended up being too much information. I couldn't teach the whole class in class number 1, so I continued it the following week. So if you go to my website, myonyisrael.com, there's 2 classes called From Pesach to Shavuos. One was Parshas Emor, and the following week Parshas Bahar Bechukoisai. One was is posted. It says over there May 9th. The class was given May 8th, but it's posted on May 9th and 2012, and the following week is May 15th. All right. So I give this class. And after the class, I sit down, and I used to do this more than now because I used to produce CDs. We haven't been doing CDs for about 2 years now, but before that, for many years, our center, Man Yisrael, would put out a CD every week from the Parsha in My Life class, and we would distribute them all over the greater Los Angeles area. Generally, we'd do about 500 CDs a week. A lot of CDs, we put them out. People would listen to them, put them in the shuls and stores. I found in the last 2 years that there was much less CDs being taken because people were turning more to digital ways through, everything is available. Everybody had YouTube. Everybody's accessing, things online, and cars. People still have some people have complaints of me why I don't put out the CDs, but so many cars don't even have CD players. So it was becoming the amount of work that went into producing them and distributing them and so on and so forth. We had our own CD maker, and the CD maker would get stuck, and it was just a crazy hassle. So in the last about a year and a half or 2 years already, we stopped doing them. But then we would do them, and in order to produce the CD, I would spend a lot of time. First, we always, every class, and it's a shame, I have to go back to it because it bothers me. The Tuesday class, because I rely so much today's days on YouTube and on Facebook and the other ways the class are getting on, so I'm not so into the posting it on the website, which I do, but I used to be very, very into getting the right music. Each class had an intro and an outro. Sometimes I would spend 3 hours Thursday night after the class finding the music and then finding the right title, and we would sit for hours. thinking and then doing whatever and getting it. Anyways, I'm sitting here after that class, and I was having second thoughts. The reason I was having second thoughts about it was because now when it's online, when you give a class online, okay, so it's out there, everybody can listen to it, and it's kind of my classes are kind of, I think pretty decent for all audiences. That particular class was a little bit more explicit in discussing intimacy, the state of a woman. It went into the union of a man and a husband and a wife, and all these things, which in our communities, due to modesty and so on and so forth, it's not made. It's obviously not content for children and so on and so forth. When today's days, I would feel more comfortable because I'm putting it online. I'm not putting it on CDs. Then when I would put the stuff on CDs, many people, women, would pick up these CDs in grocery stores, and they would listen to them. And people would come over to me and tell me that their little children in the cars during carpool love the classes. They listen to them, and some of them engage. They ask questions. They're into it. And this was, not for minors. Let's just say, the talk was a little more explicit than I would generally be comfortable. So, and I also, the Jewish communities has different standards of how you talk, what is said. Some communities, I'm talking about even in the religious communities, the observant communities, some communities are a little more liberal in the sense that they would talk a little more, would give themselves a little more openness to talk what we might call mature content in a more open way, and others are more quiet about it. And it would, such discussions would be more, on one-on-one, not so much out for the public, and whatever. It's different levels, and that's not something that I'm going to explain now why. So I was kind of a little worried if the what we call the frum community here in Los Angeles will be comfortable with me speaking about this in such an open way. So I was in doubt. So I decided that night not to produce yet. I had it in my head. I left. I spent like 2-3 hours preparing. I got the music. I got this. I got the thing like kind of set, but I didn't go into production. I went home that night, and when I got home, I suddenly was overtaken by enormous pain, intense pain. Now, I knew what it is. Why did I know what it is? On my back, the lower back. I knew it was a kidney stone. And everybody knows what kidney stone pain is, like horrific. But this hit me so strong that I thought I'm going to pass out. Literally, I thought I'm going to pass out. Now, what happened was, this was, again, I said June. So 2-3 months before that, I think in February, it was also a Tuesday night, a Monday. I know my wife was away. She was in New York it was the convention then, the Shluchis. It was Chav Shvat. I came home, and suddenly I started getting a horrible pain, and I had no idea what it is because I never had a kidney stone before, and just my lower back, and I couldn't figure out what's going on. And no one was home. I had no one to talk to. And I remember the pain was so intense that I hadn't davened the evening service. I was davening Ma'ariv, and in middle Shmona Esrei, the only time in my life this happened, I literally had to stop in middle Shmona. I just couldn't daven. I thought I was going to pass out. And no matter what I did, I lay down in bed, I stood, I walked, I went. It was horrible. I took Tylenol. I thought I'm going to call I was at the point of calling the 911. And I had no idea what it is. Thank God it stopped. The next day, I called the doctor. Anyways, discussion, this and that. He told me to go in for a checkup. He said it's probably a kidney stone, and I went, and the guy saw the stone. But he said, let's hope the stone will pass. So after that happened I think in February. After that, it kind of was quiet. I didn't really hear from the stone, and my back was pretty good. Maybe I had one more time that the stone acted up. But here it was that night. It was the worst that I've ever felt. It was just terrible, to the point that I went to the hospital. I think I called a cab. This was still before Uber days, and I went to Cedars Hospital, and I came into the emergency room in such horrific pain, and I was begging them to give me so they, first they keep you in the emergency room for a while. Finally, they put me into a room, and I felt like I was gonna. The pain was so intense that I felt like I was gonna vomit. I didn't know what to do with myself, and I was begging them, just give me a shot, because I knew they can give me a shot of pain. But their policy was, until the doctor doesn't see you or until you don't have it, they can't give it. It was 2 hours. I was running around like a madman around the hospital, literally running around them. Finally, whatever, they gave me the shot. They looked at me, and confirmed there was a kidney stone. Anyway, so the time I got back home, it was a few hours. I think I came back home like 9 in the morning. I was there for a few hours in the hospital. Came home, and I was feeling a little better, and I was all shaken up. And then I remember coming here to Mayan. I think I got a little sleep for an hour or 3 hours. And I came over here, and it was pretty late. It was like 1 in the afternoon, and I hadn't davened yet my morning prayer, Shachris. And I started davening. Now, before that, I called my principal, because I wasn't teaching anymore at 2012. I had quit. But I don't know why, and I don't know I think I know what it is. Because now I remember, since I was doing a Lag Bomer, this was 2 days before Lag Bomer, we were doing a Lag Bomer event, and I wanted the school that I used to teach in that the kids should come for the dancing. It was a big festivities. 2 nights later, it was Lag Bomer. So I called the principal to figure out how. He was my old colleague. At that time, he wasn't principal yet. When I was teaching, he was, 2 years, but before that, he wasn't. He was a friend of mine. And I called him to ask him how I'm going to help me advertise it, how to inspire the kids to come to our event. So in my discussion with him, I told him about my kidney stone. So he starts telling me that, oh, no, he says, oh, please, no. He said, I had it just now, just a little while earlier. It was just horrible. And then in the end, they had to give me a surgery. And not only that, they put in a stent. And it was one of the worst pains. And then they had to take out the stent, he says. I'm telling you, it was Gehenna. Anything that's hell. That's what he told me. So obviously I wasn't too excited to hear all about this. And here I am. I'm davening Shmona Esrei, and I'm davening Shachris. I have my tefillin, my talis, and I'm feeling very, very down. Why? Because I'm not interested in it. Thank God I was pretty healthy. I didn't have a surgery. I don't remember I didn't have any surgery in my life. I wasn't interested in going to surgery. And the pain, I didn't want to have this pain reoccurring what I had the night before, especially now that he told me about the whole situation with the stent and how horrific it was. It wasn't pleasant. At the same time, I was also feeling lost, because we were doing this big event like B'Omer, and I felt very much that I don't have any control over it, meaning the event we didn't advertise it well. I was afraid no one would show up. I had all these things when you're in production of certain things, especially now that I wasn't feeling well, and all this was sitting on my head, and the event isn't 2 nights from now, we didn't get it out. So I'm under that situation. And then I'm thinking in my head also, I don't even know about last night's class, if I should put it out or not. Okay, this is going through my head. So instead of having in mind when I'm praying Shemona Esrei, probably the whole, my mind is racing this way, that way, all over the place about the event and about my kidney stone and about this and about that. And then I'm getting to the end of the prayer, and I'm going to do the stepping out. And I'm suddenly I feel myself very emotional, and I'm kind of tearing up, and I'm standing there and I'm praying, and I'm saying, Hashem, please help me. I don't know what to do, and I don't know, please give me a refuah shalem. I get this kidney stone. I don't want to do a surgery. And it kind of came into my mind, the question regarding, should I spread the class for last night or not? So I remember I'm sitting over here, but I was standing right over there again. This is 1:00 in the afternoon, davening the morning prayers. It's already way after the time for the morning prayers, but that's when I got to it on that day. And I'm ready to step Oseh Shalom. I'm ready to walk out the 3 steps. And I decided to state, after you say Yehi Ratzon, you're allowed to pray in your own language. mean, you're allowed to add. So I decided literally to add a prayer to Hashem right then and there. And I said, please God, I need clarity, and I need a refuah shalema, and I need help. But especially what was on my mind was I really was in conflict whether I should spread this class or not spread this class. And, obviously I'm not dealing with a major issue in life like I discussed in my previous episode, but for me at that moment, it was an important question. And, I was very frazzled, let me put it this way. I was in a very frazzled state. So, somehow the thought came to me. I said, you know what? And I said this. I said, Hashem, help me. And I said, Hashem, I'm making myself a sign. Like Eliezer, the servant of Avram, said he's making a sign. I'm making a sign. I'm going to open up a volume of letters of the Rebbe. At that time, I think the Rebbe's letters, I kept it in the Aron HaKodesh on the bottom. Now I have it in the side bookshelf over here. I said, I'm going to open up a volume of letters randomly. And please give me a very, very clear answer through those letters. That was my question, actually. I remember even that my talk that time was talking to Hashem. I was saying, please, through the letters, give me a very clear answer whether I should put out this, should I share this class publicly or should I not put it out there? Oh, let me put it this way. I forgot the very major point. In your mind, you don't know where your mind is going. So my mind was, the thought that came up to me as I'm suffering at night, maybe the reason I'm getting all this kidney pain was because I spoke a little too much. It was a little immodest, my class. Maybe it's a little too much. And maybe because of that, God is showing me it's not good by giving me this pain. And that was adding on to the reason why I should not share the class. So I said, I just want to do what's right. If yes, yes. If not, not. I'm not going to produce it. Tell me. So again, I did Osa Shalom. I stepped out Shemona Esrei, and I walk right over to remember, like Zoom, I walked right over without any other thing, and I open up with my talis and my tefillin, and I open up this book that I'm holding for you right now, right over here. And my eyes open up. Now this is the Rebbe's Letters, volume 19, from the year Tafshin Chaf. Now again, as I told you, there's like 25 or 30, and now there's like 40, I think, volumes. So you can pick random. I just picked one randomly, not knowing which one I'm picking. This was volume number 19, and here it is. The letter it's on page Shin Ches, which is 308. Letter is 7,308. That's interesting. Okay. The letter is Chaf He'ir, which is the season in which I was asking this question, as I mentioned to you, the 15th day, which is the 16th day of Iyar. So this is within 4 days of the question. He's writing like this: Irgen Esheyu B'nois Chabad. This is to the group. The Irgun means the society of the women and the daughters of Chabad. Asher Bekvar Chabad, that is in Kvar Chabad. Hashem Aleim Techiyanu. Hashem should, watch over them, give them life, and so on. Bracha v'sholem, blessings and peace. Just an interesting note: when the Rebbe writes to men, when he addresses men, it's always shalom u'bracha. When it's to women, it's always the opposite. First bracha, then shalom. In any case, b'noyam kabalti mechtavay metezayin ir, mechtavan, with pleasantness I received your letter. Oh, I forgot this. See, it's coming to me. From the 16th day of Iyar. That's the day I'm standing there, okay? I'm standing there actually on the 17th day of Iyar. The class that I gave the night before, the day before, is the 16th of Iyar. So this is the next day. Boy Koiseves, in which you're writing, Al Dvar Hashir Bein HaChaveros, regarding the class between your friends, Belimud Dinei Taras HaMishpacha, regarding family purity. Okay. There it's talking about the laws of family purity. The Yiratzen, let it be the will, Shei B'Shatay V'Mitzlachas, that this should be in a good and auspicious time. V'Ashrei Chelkan, and fortunate are those, Ashal Kol Elu HaMishtadlois HaMesayas B'Zeh. Fortunate are those of everybody that participates in this. This is one of the fundamentals of Judaism, of our holy Torah, a Torah of life. As explained in many places. It's also understood from what the sages say that this mitzvah was given to the women of Israel, Shal Yedei Zeh, because through this mitzvah, family purity, which means a mikvah and all that, mitakenes and chet harishin, they correct the first sin, shehu makar kol hachatam, which is the root of all sins, asher ba'olam, that's in the world, umakar kol ha'lo tov asher ba'olam, and the source of all that which is not good in this world, all negativity, all evil that's in the world is from the first sin. One of the ways of fixing that sin, which was perpetrated by Chava, Eve, is through the women keeping these laws and fulfilling this mitzvah. So the Rebbe says it's a wonderful thing that you have that share. Okay. The Yiratzin, let it be the will. Asher pu'ulasana amura, that this that you're doing, teshamesh dugma, this should serve as an example that you're making such a class. And from there, from what you're doing, others should see and others should copy and others should do. Women all over the place. And let this be in a peaceful way, a joyous way, and a good-hearted way, with gladness of heart. And let this class also serve as a channel, the keli, and as a vessel, to the addition of God's blessings, and whatever you need, and especially, and the most important inner thing, that together with your husbands, again, he's addressing a group of women, you together with your husbands, you should raise all of your offspring to Torah, to marriage, and to good deeds. And let there be good news in all this. So stop over here. I'm standing here. I'm asking. I have a shir. It's dealing with matters of intimacy. And by the way, it's not talking about I'm not giving a class on intimacy. That's what I'm doing. The class is to speak about the rules that the Torah gives regarding separation of man and woman. I was explaining what's the spiritual fallout, God forbid, when there is a union with a woman that has not gone to the mikveh, not been purified. And I was explaining how her soul is hacked and giving a whole deeper understanding, also a very deep understanding of why married women should cover their hair. So it was all about the whole idea of these laws, but giving the chasidus, giving the inner spiritual meaning to it. Again, and I'm thinking that maybe this is a class that should not be publicized. I open up to a letter in which he's encouraging a class on Taharas HaMishpacha, which is on this subject, and it should be done in ways that others should copy and follow, and it should be something that should be spread clearly. And he's giving that this should bring big blessings in your life and in everything. And again, when is the letter addressed? The day I'm standing, the day that I gave the class, that's when the letter is dated. So I had my answer. This class, I'm going to publicize. I'm putting it out there. It's going out. But I wasn't done yet. Again, I was bothered in my head that this Lag Bomer event is happening, and I don't feel comfortable about it. So the next letter, right beneath it, Chav Beis Ir Tashav Shalom Bracha. So regarding your letter that I received from this luminous day of Lag Bomer. So even though he doesn't talk about Lag Bomer, but the moment he mentioned in the letter Lag Bomer, I knew I have a blessing for my Lag Bomer event and everything will be good. Now, in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking about my kidney stone. And I'm hoping that everything is going to be well and that the stone will pass without a surgery. So I look on the next page. Again, continuing, the letter has two sides. When my eyes fell over here, this answered my question regarding the class, and now I'm looking over here. So there's Aleph Beis Gimel. On the first thing, he writes, Beis Ratzain, in a auspicious time, Yaskiru es imay tichya. We will mention your mother, Alatzian Kadesh on my father-in-law's grave, Lahatzlochas Hatipul Harafui, that the medical procedure should go well. Just like, let it be the will, that just like you asked for the request, you should also let me good news that the procedure went well. It's understood that the more trust you have in Hashem, who heals all flesh and does wonders, so the greater your trust in God, so the quicker the success. This is what he writes. I read this and I knew one thing. I am going to have a procedure. It was stated over here, but at least I had a blessing for the procedure. So actually, it took about 6 weeks, but June 30th around, I think June 28th, June 30th, I went in, I had a procedure. And not only did they take the stone out, but they put me in a stent, and I suffered horribly. It was one of the worst pains I've had in my life. And then they had to take out the stent. The whole thing, I hope it did some needed cleansing. But at least I knew I had a blessing for Refuah Shalem. So I got all, whatever I was concerned about, all in one letter. I got an answer regarding spreading the class. I got a blessing for Lag Bomer. And Lag Bomer event actually was beautiful. It was fantastic. It was great. And I also got a blessing for my procedure. Anyways, I know it's talking about his mother's procedure, not about his procedure, but this was I felt it was my answer for my procedure, and everything was well. In any case, needless to say, I spread that class. I have to say that this turned out to be one of the most popular classes that I had. I got so much feedback from so many people, how much this class clarified and how much it helped them understand, and women regarding covering their hair, and it gave such a deeper understanding of in this mitzvah, and it was clearly the right thing to do, and clearly an inspiration. And if you're interested, I'm actually going to post that class, the link to that class, on the YouTube. I'm also going to post the letter, and all of that. And who knows if this is just the beginning of the story? Who knows how much good is still going to come out of it? So until I continue with my next episode, I'd like to wish everybody clarity and light and blessings and only good. And let us meet with the coming of Mashiach very, very speedily in our days. Not just in our days, but today. All be well.